it's Charlene. Today I'm sharing how I made this beautiful Art Deco inspired card using some new products from Altenew. I'm starting out here with the Streamlined Sprig Die Set. This is an awesome set for some fun ink blending techniques we're going to do. This set includes the outline die as well as the inset pieces. So I've cut all the inset pieces out twice using some white cardstock. And I'm going to come in here with some of the beautiful Ocean Waves fresh dye ink. And I'm using my blending tool here to go all the way around this piece. For the top two larger floral pieces, I am going to use the Ocean Waves over the entire piece. I'm starting at the bottom and working my way up because I know that's where the darkest part of my florals are going to be. And I'm going to bring in a second color here for this piece. Okay, I repeated the process with the Ocean Waves for that second floral. Now I'm bringing in my next darkest color, which is Dusk. I'm going to bring this Dusk up from the bottom on the two larger florals to shade them. And then once I've done that, I'm actually going to do an all over of the Dusk on the two smaller florals, which are in the middle. These kind of sit down to the right of the larger floral. And so I'm going to have some variation. And because they're smaller buds, it makes sense that they would still be darker. They haven't opened up to show all their color. Now I've picked these blues because blue just screams Art Deco to me. And I think it looks really nice, especially with the blue background that we're going to create. And then the bottom two pieces are the leaf pieces, and I'm going to be doing some greens for those. Now I'll come in with my darkest of the three blues, and this is Desert Night. I love this blue color. But I'm going to bring it up from the bottom here on the smaller florals to add in that dark shading towards the bottom. And then I'm going to bring in just a little bit here and there on the top florals as well to define the bases. But I'm not going to use as much on those two larger florals, again, because I want them to be much lighter. Now you can see here it looks a little splotchy as I'm adding the color, but this is going to dry back really nicely and you'll have a nice highlight towards the center top of all of these floral pieces, and then you'll have that deep dark shading as you go down to the base of the florals. For my leaves, I've brought in 3 shades of teal. Now I only actually end up using 2 of these, but they're going to work really well with the blues. I'm starting out with the lightest of the 3, which is Volcano Lake. And again, I'm going to bring that color up and over the entirety of the leaf. When I'm working with my fresh dye inks, I like to use the lid for tapping off or for working the ink into my brush, because then I don't lose any of that ink. I can always go back to the lid and pick up whatever is on there. This allows me to keep my ink and not mess up my work surface. So I decided to skip Lagoon, and I'm just going to go straight into Emerald, which is the darkest of these 3. And I will bring this up along the base as well, going about 1/3 of the way up onto the leaf. And that's going to give me my nice shading for my leaf down here at the bottom. Once I'm finished ink blending all of my pieces, I'll bring in the outline die, and I'm going to cut this from some gold foil cardstock. And then I'm also going to bring in the Deco Cover Die Set. This is a great set for framing out your cards. And I'm going to cut the largest one here from some of that gold foiled cardstock as well. This is going to look really beautiful with our ink blended pieces and definitely give us that Art Deco feeling that I'm going for here. So I've brought in my glue and I'm just dotting it all the way along the back of the floral outline. And once I have that glue on there, I can bring in the largest of the ink blended floral pieces and glue that on the back. You can do this technique with a lot of different die sets, even if you don't have the die that cuts out the piece that goes back behind there. You can do this as die cut inlay, where you go ahead and ink blend a piece of cardstock and then cut out your outline die, and then just inlay those pieces into a different piece of gold foiled cardstock. Hopefully that makes sense. or you could actually ink blend a piece of cardstock and then just cut out your die and trace around the area where you're going to need to back it and then cut it out by hand. There's lots of different ways you can accomplish this. I would say though, it is super easy when you have the matching die that you can just go ahead and cut it out of the cardstock and color it and glue back behind there. I think that floral looks really pretty. I'm going to repeat the process here with the remaining pieces. Here I'm bringing in that second floral and gluing it back behind there. And now I'm bringing in the green leaf piece and I'm going to glue that back behind the leaf area. I repeat that whole process with the second sprig as well. Now I am actually going to be cutting these sprigs apart. These would look wonderful on the front of a card just as is. You could do a beautiful, clean and simple card just by putting 1 or 2 of these on the front of a card with a simple stamped sentiment on there in black ink. That would look beautiful. But I really wanted to go for some glitz and glam here. And here's the finished piece. Isn't that pretty? I love how the foiled cardstock shines. Now I'll bring in the Deco Greetings stamps. These go so well with this. I'm going to stamp this first in some clear embossing ink after I add some anti-static powder down here. I've got a nice dark blue piece of cardstock that again just evokes that Art Deco feeling. I did double stamp this just because the letters are thicker and I want to make sure that I get enough coverage with my embossing ink. And now I can add my embossing powder. Now I'm using gold embossing powder and I have a couple different gold embossing powders, so I actually went ahead and swatched all of them because I wanted to find one that matched really well with the same gold foil cardstock that I was using. So I've come in here with my heat tool and I've melted all of that beautiful gold embossing powder. Now I'm coming in here and adding glue all the way back around my frame. If I had been thinking, I would have used a double-sided adhesive sheet before I die cut out this gold foil cardstock with the frame die. That would make it a lot easier to adhere to my card panel. But since I didn't think that through, I'm just very carefully going along and dotting glue on all of those small pieces. And once I added glue all the way around, I just very carefully put it down around the edges of my card panel. Now I can come in and do the fun final construction of this card. So you can see I have my scissors here. It's a little scary to cut these sprigs apart, but essentially all I'm doing is just cutting off different areas and then I'm gluing them onto the card where I think they look nice. Now I want my finished product to look like these flowers are actually part of this exterior frame that I created on the card. I want it to look almost like it's a art piece that maybe somebody would have hanging on their wall. So when I am trimming these, I'm making sure to trim them in such a way that when I glue them onto the card, that they will look seamless with the frame. So for instance, on this one, it meant that I had to trim the stem at an angle so that way it would meet that right corner right there on the edge of the card. And here you can see I had a little bit extra, so I just trimmed that off so that way it would lay flat with this other part. So take your time. You might want to pre-plan this out. I had kind of an idea in my head of where I wanted to put all of these florals as I was gluing them down. Next, I can add my leaf, and I'm going to put this right in the corner so that it comes up and underneath the sentiment, but that it looks like the flower is growing out from that bottom right hand corner. So it's going to give you kind of an illusion that things are happening outside the frame that you don't see, and that makes the card look really interesting to the human eye. So anytime you're doing a pattern that you're creating on a card with stamps or with die cuts or anything like that, giving that illusion that there are things happening off the paper out where you can't see it is really going to make for an interesting card. Once I had the main pieces down there, I went ahead and brought all the rest of my pieces in just so I could make sure that everything was going to work how I had it in my head. And then I just went ahead and glued the rest of those after I trimmed them down to make sure that they would fit well, and again, so that they would look like they were coming out from the sides of the frame and attached. So for example, you can see there, I trimmed off part of this floral because I wanted it to look like it was going off of the page. So this is actually a fairly easy card to put together, and it doesn't have very much dimension, so it will mail well. But because you have all of that beautiful line work with the gold foil on the front, with those pops of color, it really packs a punch. I feel like this just is a very timeless, elegant card. I hope you guys like it. I hope you picked up some tips and tricks today. Oh, look at all that shine. I love foiled cardstock. I did want to mention that this video is part of Altenew's new release hop, so definitely check down below in the description to see how you can enter the giveaway that they have going on. It's an awesome one. And be sure to like and subscribe, as well as hit the notification bell, so that way I can continue to bring you more crafty content in the future. Until next time, happy crafting.